So, dear friends of the ISNS and colleagues, it's an honor to have right in front of me Professor at Naylor. And you, Professor Naylor, have been a colleague of Dr. Robert Guthrie, the inventor of the Guthrie card or the blood spot card, that today is used 40 million times a year to perform newborn screening all over the world. And International Neonatal Screening Day is very much attached to the birthday of Bob Guthrie, and it's just an honor to have this unique opportunity to hear testimony of someone who was a close collaborator of Dr. Guthrie for many years.
It's my pleasure to relay some history of Bob Guthrie. It started for me, my PhD was in human genetics. I went to the University of Pittsburgh Graduate School of Public Health to do a master's in public health with a topic in knowledge, attitudes, and practices of genetic counseling and genetic screening. I answered an ad in a Science magazine in 1972 from Bob Guthrie, looking for a postdoctoral fellow. I sent a letter and a resume to Bob, and within a couple of days I received a phone call and an invitation and a ticket to fly from Pittsburgh to Buffalo to meet with him. He showed me the lab, took me out to dinner at his home, and offered me the fellowship. The interest that he had in public health, the application of the newborn screening, is what interested him in my background, in my interests. They coincided. At that time, Bob had two research associates working with him, Bill Murphy and Michael Garrick. Michael Garrick was working on sickle cell. He had developed a newborn screening test for sickle cell, and was more really at the university, more academic research, looking at hemoglobin switching as a possible potential treatment for sickle cell disease. So he really wasn't committed to newborn screening. He was had developed that screening test and was working on that. Bill Murphy was working on galactosemia and had developed some sickle cell, or some galactosemia screening methods, biochemical methods for sickle cell, for galactosemia. I came there for 2 years as a postdoctoral fellow. Bob, for the first 6 months, had me working on looking at pedigrees at the West Seneca Developmental Center. He was looking for new inborn errors of metabolism. So I was trying to identify, going through the medical records of the residents that were mentally retarded, and trying to identify families that were autosomal recessive disorders. Found a number of very interesting cases, but we never found any new inborn errors of metabolism. So by the time I actually got into the laboratory working with Bob, it was developing new screening tests. Bob was not somebody that was in the laboratory in the years that I was with him. He had started at Sloan Kettering Institute in cancer chemotherapy research, working with metabolic inhibitors. He had an MD and a PhD. The only time he used his MD degree, he would claim, it got him to park in the doctor's parking lot at the hospital. He was truly a microbiologist, which is what his interests and training was. He had a son that was mentally retarded, Johnny, and was totally committed to the idea of prevention of mental retardation. He worked with the Association for Retarded Children, later the Association for Retarded Citizens, ARC. And at a cocktail party fundraiser for the ARC, he was talking to Dr. Robert Warner at the Children's Rehab Center, and Bob Warner was treating PKU children, and made the comment that he wished he had a simple screening test to measure phenylalanine to determine the success of the diet. And Bob thought about it a little bit, and he went back to the lab, and his lab technician, Ada Susie, that he worked with, he said, you know, what about this beta-2-phenylalanine that we've been working with that is in the laboratory, metabolic inhibitors? And so Ada went in the lab and she put together a quick assay for Bob. And the bacterial inhibition assay that Bob developed, that Ada Susie developed, the two of them together, you simply took an agar plate, added domains media, added the metabolic inhibitor beta-2-phenylalanine, and what Bob Guthrie knew from his cancer chemotherapy research is that in the presence of phenylalanine, the microbiological inhibition is reversed. So if you pour a BIA plate with agar domains media and beta-2-phenylalanine, you get a clear plate.
Mm-hmm.
You put discs of increasing concentrations of phenylalanine, 5, 10, 15, 20, greater than 20. You get reversal of inhibition, and you get a growth zone around it. And by measuring the growth zone, you could get I called it a semi-quantitative assay.
Mm-hmm.
Bob says, absolutely, he got angry every time I did that. It's quantitative. The bacteria respond quantitatively. I said, yes, but the people that read the plates, it's semi-quantitative.
Yeah.
But it worked. And that was the Guthrie bacterial inhibition assay. Where did the filter paper come in? Well, the story that Bob told me was that when he was a teenager, he read a Sir Arthur Conan Doyle Sherlock Holmes novel, in which Sherlock Holmes solved a murder mystery by blood typing the blood of the perpetrator on a desk blotter on the desk. And that gave him the idea of the filter paper. And the use of the filter paper has been really the unique aspect of what Bob's contribution has been. The BIA lasted a decade or so until biochemical assays for phenylalanine came along, and later the tandem mass spectrometry. But it started the whole movement of newborn screening.
And so you had the essay, you had the idea of using filter paper, but then to come to the concept of using that for newborn screening. How was that also, was that the laboratory working on that? Were you as a group thinking about how are we going to develop this?
Well, you know, Bob developed the assay in the mid-60s.
Mm-hmm.
I joined Bob in 72.
Mm-hmm.
So, newborn screening had started. Bob had done a 400,000 newborn pilot program prior to my coming with Bob. He had contacted, I think, most of the state health departments and asked people to contribute 100 newborn blood spots. Bob McCready at the University of Massachusetts Department of Public Health committed to screening every baby in Massachusetts. So I think 2/3 or 3/4 of those 400,000 came from Bob McCready's lab in Massachusetts. So that pilot program really validated and demonstrated that you could pick up these kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they were already being treated. Horse pickle, I think it was in the, I think in the 50s even, he had come up with the treatment for PKU. So the screening had been done on a pilot basis. There wasn't anybody commercially providing the reagents for this.
Mm-hmm.
Bob manufactured the kits in a garage behind a house next door to Children's Hospital of Buffalo. They would take sheets of filter paper,
Mm-hmm.
cut them into squares, put the inhibitor, the B subtilis spores, and the agar and domains media into a kit and give them out to any hospital that would be willing to screen their newborns. And he literally promoted it on a hospital by hospital basis.
Yeah.
The 5 labs that worked with Bob in a collaborative study, New England, Western New York. Now New York consolidated, they had 4 regional labs, New York, Albany, Syracuse, and Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
The Buffalo laboratory was the local laboratory that was a collaborative lab. Oregon, a hospital in Southern California, and New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have meetings every year and bring the 5 regional people together and discuss the latest developments that we've done in the laboratory, get our feedback on quality control, and decide where to go, what new tests to pilot with the 5 labs. We had our own meeting every year throughout the 70s in Buffalo. And we'd bring in the 5 lab directors, and we would spend 2 or 3 days talking about what we developed in the laboratory, what they had experienced with their screening programs, presumptive positives, false negatives, anything that you wanted. Right. The newborn screening for congenital adrenal hyperplasia, for congenital hypothyroidism, for cystic fibrosis, all were part of those early discussions. Jeanette Crosley and Bob Elliott in New Zealand had developed a screening test for IRT,
Mm-hmm.
cystic fibrosis.
Mm-hmm.
We got the grant from the CF Foundation was Dr. Rini Vladutu and myself. We screened 25,000 newborns in Buffalo for IRT for CF. And that was before any of the other screening programs had started. Congenital hypothyroidism, Tom Foley in Pittsburgh and Reed Larson in Pittsburgh were both early developers of blood spot screening for hypothyroidism. Tom Foley for TSH, Reed Larson for T4.
Mm-hmm.
Reed Larson was using it to screen mice for hypothyroidism. But Tom was trying to do a pilot program in Pittsburgh and was having difficulties getting any of the hospitals to participate. So we provided him with 5,000 blood spots to do his first pilot, and brought Tom and Reed up to Pittsburgh to sit with Bob Guthrie and get him excited about hypothyroidism screening. Bob organized a meeting at the airport in San Francisco sometime in the late 70s for congenital hypothyroidism screening. And Jean Dussault in Quebec was doing the screening.
Mm-hmm.
And we got Bob fired up about that, and he started off the whole thing.
So what's the story about him being nominated?
What I understand is that he and Horst Bickel were jointly nominated for the prize in medicine, and were not awarded the prize. And the logic, as I understand it, was that, well, this is a nice test, and this is a nice treatment, but it's for one disease, and it doesn't meet the criteria of universality. So he never got it. Harvey Levy and somebody from Roswell Park realized that it was a mistake nominating the 2 of them together. So at one point they nominated Bob for the Nobel Peace Prize, and the basis of that was the filter paper, because the filter paper does meet the criteria of universality.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the reasons why he wasn't awarded the Nobel Prize. I think his impact has been tremendous over the years. But
over 60 years later, the concept is still used
Yeah.
very much as it was suggested back in the 60s
Yeah.
by him.
Yeah.
What did the original card look like? How big was it? Was it just one spot or two spots? Or
Well, we just cut it out of sheets. Whatever. It was like, maybe a sheet about
so there was no
3 inches by
printing
1
on
inch.
it or anything?
No, we just had
Certainly no lot numbers or
No,
nothing
until
like that.
Schleicher and Schielen started, manufacturing them specifically
Yeah.
for newborn screening.
There's a story that I heard from Patricia Guthrie that at some point he looked for a company to produce it, and the company asked an insane amount of money for that.
That was Abbott. Abbott approached Bob and offered to patent the technology. I don't know whether that was the filter paper and the BIA or one or the other of them. And Bob, said they would pay for it. Bob was not a particularly astute businessman, so he let them do that. And as I understand it, he was at a meeting in Chicago, giving out free kits to anybody that wanted them. And in the same area, Abbott had a booth that they were selling the kits for a rather substantial price. Bob at heart was a socialist who believed that everybody should have free health care. And as far as he was concerned, he was doing that. He was giving out the free health care. When he learned that Abbott was selling the technology, he turned the patent over to the federal government. And Bob, I don't think ever made a nickel
Of that, okay.
off of the screening.
That's kind of the beauty of things that we covered 60 years of history of newborn screening, and that didn't went in one straight line. That went with new technology discovered and not really knowing what to do with it, and then
Yep.
apparently we had the possibility to multiplex, and so it will be the same in the next 5 years.
I have a little bit of Bob Guthrie in me, in that Bob, believes in something, he charges forward. I've kind of done that thing with tandem mass spec over the years, and if I were 20 years younger, I'd be doing it with molecular. I'm doing it to a degree with molecular, but not with the same energy and effort that I would have had 20 years ago. But Bob instilled a lot of good things, I think, in me, and I hope not too many of the bad.